Should we, can we think about all the changes in the speed limit signs and agree that we are going to start some enforcement and start to think about how we're going to inform the public about that?
Yes.
I think probably we need a mailing going to every house. It's not cheap, but maybe the best way to go. We can think about that.
Okay.
Carolyn, are you with us?
I am.
Hi,
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can everyone hear Carolyn okay?
Yep.
So Carolyn,
So,
we have a list of questions from you.
well, I just thought that might, you know,
Yeah,
move things along.
yeah, good.
So if it's okay, well, I'll just start. Have you given thought to what you want to do with the 40 Gate Lane property? I know well, it was sort of inferred to me that you might be considering not offering it up for auction. Is that true, or have you decided against that?
I haven't been party to any discussions about conservation of that piece, but maybe other select board members have.
No, the
Yeah.
only,
That was one of the ones I think the open space thought of as a possibility to keep for conservation. Did you want to say anything? Ray's here if you guys want to have him remind us. Did you want to?
Hello. There's a question. Yeah, the open space.
Can't really hear Ray.
The open space had flagged that parcel because it is surrounded on all sides by conservation land, and so we just wondered whether or not the parcel was, what condition the building was in, and whether it was really developable. And it sounded that Carolyn had found that the condition wasn't very good, and maybe it didn't perk. Was that right, Carolyn?
Well, the information that I have been given regarding that parcel is that a perk was attempted several years ago, but was not achieved. I don't know whether that was before or after Title V. I don't know that information. I was told by somebody that used to live on that property that the house is not habitable as is, doesn't apparently have wiring or plumbing or anything like that. There's no septic system. I don't know the condition of the well, but that all being said, it is, I believe, a 5-acre parcel. I forget exactly. And yes, it's a little over 5 acres, and it has a house on it. So, you know, an argument could be made that you have to allow the property owner to put some sort of septic system on it. It could be, you know, $50,000 system, but so I don't know. It's not, I mean, that road's very difficult because it's not a town road. It's, you know, private road, and it's not very well maintained. However, there are I've had a few people who are interested in bidding on it possibly at the auction on Saturday, so.
Oh, okay. Possibly consider that.
Okay, any thoughts from the select board? Any preferences? I guess I'll just toss it out there. My preference at the moment would be to take it off the auction list and think about it. But Lori and Gillian, what do you think?
That's fine with me. I mean, I don't know I haven't done one of these before, or I guess I'm not aware of it enough. what is the minimum bid? Like, what would we expect to get?
Well, that's one of the questions I'm hoping the select board will help answer tonight, is setting minimum bids for all of these. The other thing I do want to remind you of, that if the town continues to maintain ownership of this property, you will have to do something about that building. It should not be just left standing. From what I have been told, I am not a Board of Health member, so I'm not saying this with any great authority, but I am assuming that the structure would probably be condemned. And if that's the case, the town, because, you know, we insure it, the town is going to have to secure it, or either do what they did with the 120 Wendell Depot Road and ask the fire department if they're interested in doing a controlled burn, and then it's not a problem anymore. But
Jillian?
I feel like I'm leaning towards, if there are willing buyers, to consider that, in part because the idea of having another building to maintain or figure out what to do with. That's where I'm leaning.
Okay, well, I could certainly go along with that. Lori?
And I guess nobody's approached Joe Cuneo about whether or not they would be interested in this for a fire burn. Or it's called.
no, I haven't, because I wasn't even sure whether, you know, it was something you'd entertain. But he was pretty keen on it the last time, because it gives them an opportunity. You know, they bring in other other towns. They use it as an training opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So
How accessible is this parcel on Gate Lane for fire trucks?
well, Gate Lane itself is, personally, I won't drive my vehicle down it.
Nor will
I made
I.
Chase take me down the last time. I don't think fire equipment can get down there or any emergency vehicles in its current condition.
Hi, this is Phil. I want to just chime in here a little bit. You know, the way the state works and the town also is that the existence of a structure on a property entitles the owner certain rights. So if we sell a property with a structure on it, whether or not it's habitable, whether or not it's been inspected, whether or not there's, you know, fire, smoke detectors or anything like that, that person has rights to abide there. I mean, an existing structure has rights that, you know, a piece of land doesn't necessarily include. So if we sell that piece of property with a structure on it, someone can buy it, and they can rightfully, I believe, rightfully move in that day. They can habitate that house. There's no running water. There's no septic system. There's no smoke detectors that I know of. I think the town is remiss to, you know, turn a piece of property like that over to someone for the sake of what? I'm sure it's worth something, but maybe with the house gone, the property's still worth something. I think it would be a mistake to hand that over to someone and say, here's a house, you're welcome to live in it, in that condition.
Knowing that information, I would change my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't think that was possible.
It
Bill,
is, it sure is, yeah.
Can you or the Board of Health or somebody go visit the site and condemn it before, you know, in a quick process? Something that's a longer process.
I can give information, but the Board of Health has the only authority to condemn a house like that, a residence.
I don't think that's something that can be achieved before Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that also then. I think we should
Hold
check
on
in
to it for now.
Joe and check in and put this off till we have
Okay,
So remove Gate Lane from the auction.
right.
Okay. Do you guys want to vote on that, or is that not necessary?
All those in favor of removing Gate Lane from the auction, say aye.
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 Okay.
Now, your
All
second
right, next
is the select board
is,
expectation to try to sell all 4 or 5 properties at any price? I think the answer is yes, right?
okay,
Other select boards?
I've never done, like I said, I've never done this before, I don't think. But it sounds like we just want to get them back on the tax rolls, right? So that's the main reason we're doing this, so yeah.
Yeah.
Can they be sold for, can the minimum bid be for what's past due on the taxes?
well, no. Only because nobody would bid on any of them. Unfortunately, so many of these properties were in land court for a very long time. So we have one that it literally has not had taxes paid on it in over 22 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, it's just, there's the amount of outstanding taxes in some cases is more than the value.
Okay.
So it would be, in an ideal world, yes, that would be the goal. But unfortunately, it's just an unrealistic expectation with these properties. That being said, I've had a lot of interest in this auction, so I am hoping that the bidding will, be hearty. The last time we did do an auction, you never know what's going to happen. We had one property that I did not anticipate getting much interest, and it ended up selling for over $25,000. So we just keep our fingers crossed.
Okay, so our answer to question number 2 is that we are willing to sell these at any price. Is that right, board?
Yep.
Okay.
And the question number 3, starting bid to be bidder's deposit price for each parcel. That sounds good to me. Select board?
Sure.
I don't see the attached.
Oh, did I not send you a list of the parcels?
If you did, it was before.
You did a while.
Right, no, well, if it's okay with you, there's only 4, so I'm just going to go through them quickly. I'll give you a little bit of the, monetary information about them.
Okay.
And, you can kind of look at it. So number 1 is a 28-acre parcel. It's off of Wendell Road over on the New Salem side of town. It is a landlocked piece of property. So, it's not going to be a building lot. But the outstanding taxes owed on that were just over $6,700, and the assessed value at the time of taking was $39,200. So with that one, the bid deposit price for that one is $2,000. So I think it's reasonable for $2,000 to be the minimum bid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then at the auction, the way I do it, I start off going up in $500 increments. But if there's a lot of bidders, then I'll, bump it up to $1,000 until things start to slow down.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is 120 Wendell Depot Road, and that is the house where the fire department did the controlled burn a couple years ago.
Right.
So there's a concrete slab there. That is a 3-acre parcel. It is did have a house on it for, I don't know how many years, but for a very long time. So there's no reason to expect that that is not a building lot. And that one, it's impossible to, that's the one that from the time it was, I think, went into land, was leaned, was back in 1994. anyway, it's been a long time, so you can't possibly go by what the taxes would be on that, because now it's only land. It's not, there's no house there. So the last land assessment I could find was 38.3. Now the bid deposit on that's $2,000. So again, that's probably a good starting spot.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is 85 New Salem Road, and that does have it's actually a trailer that has clapboards on it, and there's other outbuildings and whatnot there. It's just over 3 acres. Yep, it's 3.5 acres. So, but the taxes on that one were about $14,500. And the last assessed value was $52,600. So, what's the bid? The bid deposit on that's $2,000. That one I might, because it is an actual, there is a, house there or whatever. You might want to start the minimum bid up a little bit, but that's up to you.
What would you say, Carolyn?
Well, I don't think it would be unreasonable to have the minimum bid be $5,000. And if nobody bid on it at that, I could go down to as low as the $2,000.
Okay.
That seems
Sounds good.
reasonable.
I have a question, Carolyn. This is Phil.
Yes.
Do these properties ever get advertised? I mean, you talk about a house lot that is valued at $35,000 maybe, and on the open market, I mean, are they advertised above and beyond the auction so that people are aware that this is being sold?
Well, there was other than this auction, the notice was in the paper a couple of weeks ago, and it's posted here and at the country store. Those are the legal posting requirements. But other than that, it's not advertised in any other way.
I posted the auction
Oh, it's on the listserv, right?
and to next door Wendell.
Oh, okay. So it was in the newsletter.
It's just curious
So-
that, house that lots would go for sale for $2,000 or $3,000 when in fact they're worth 10 times that. It's a curiosity, that's all. I don't have much more to say about that.
Well, I will say it's difficult. We could possibly have gone with an auction house to do this. The reason that I have stayed away from that the past couple of auctions is because I did it the first time, and the expense for the auctioneer and what the town ended up getting, because you have to pay them a percentage, it was not worth the expense. And so usually the people who are interested in the properties are either abutters or people that have lived in town. So the word of mouth, I suppose, gets out that way. I rarely get people from outside of Wendell or outside of the area who are coming in because they've, seen it advertised in the Boston paper or something like that. So I think, and I've had a lot of interest. I've had at least 20 different people contact me regarding this auction. So the word has gotten out there. And we could put the starting bid up higher. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't quite feel right to do it. I don't know.
It sounds to me like the starting bid of 5,000 on that one, number 3 is good.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
What about number 2, bumping that one up? I think that's the one that Phil's talking about. If we also did that one for 5,000.
Well, you know, the other thing too is, I don't have any big ones. If, we had done a perk and knew that the property had potable water,
Yep.
I would be more willing to say, let's start at $20,000 or something like that. But
Yep.
anyone who buys these properties, they're going to have to go to the expense of putting in septic systems and probably wells. And even though the Wendell Depot Road property did have a house on it, it doesn't now, so they have to build a new structure. So they're really just buying, you know, the land. And I don't know.
Okay. I'll take your advice because I've never done this.
Well,
I have a-
and
I
I'm
have a-
not an expert
I have a
on
thought I'd like to add in there, if I may.
that. Okay?
You know, anybody that buys a lot, a piece of land, 3 acres, even in Wendell or any of the surrounding towns, they have that same issue. They have to put a septic in, they have to put a well in before they can get a building permit. And they're still paying $30,000 and $35,000 for building lots. So it just occurs to me that maybe we're giving these away only because, you know, that we're not attracting the correct market. And Carolyn, I appreciate your going through all this work for us for not, you know, it just, they just seem like for instance, the last maybe a couple, 3 years ago, there were 2 building lots that went for sale, one on Lock Hill 1 and the other one was up on Wendell, Locks Village Road. And the prices they went for, the one on Lock Hill went for like $30,000 because there was competition on it. The one up on Locks Village
Right.
went for incredibly cheap, and it was a beautiful, perfectly fine lot that anybody would love to have. So it just occurs to me that we're not getting what we could for them, and I don't know if there's any solution to that. We're just trying to get rid of them. We just want them off the books. I mean, have we talked to an appraiser?
Bill.
What's that?
We'd like to get them on the tax roll.
Well, we would, but have we talked to an appraiser? Like, what are they really worth? I mean,
Well, you can do all that. The problem is it costs money to do that. And these properties have already cost the town.
Yep.
I mean, if I added up the back taxes on just these 4 alone, we're pretty close to $75,000, $80,000 in arrears. So,
we'll get that back with the sales.
no, we won't necessarily get it back with the sales, but we will be going in the right direction because they'll be back on the tax rolls. And, well, hopefully they'll all be on the tax rolls. But, yeah.
Okay, well,
I mean,
I think we're okay on number 2 of having a deposit of 2,000. And I think we're okay on number 3 with having a deposit of 5,000. And a minimum bid, that is, of 5,000 on
Right.
property 3. And then what about number 4, Carolyn?
Number 4 that's Gate Lane, so never mind. And the last one is Cooleyville Road. That is a 1.9 acre parcel that I honestly can't say at this time if it can be a building lot. I did have a discussion with Phil about it. There's registry research that needs to be done to determine whether this would be a grandfathered lot. So this is one that I probably would, this is the second time it's been up for a tax title auction. So it seems people, they buy it at the auction and then they don't do anything with it. So, I mean, we could go for something higher, but maybe with the caveat that if it's found not to be a building lot, that the owners, the potential buyers have that 30-day window till they close to determine if it's a building lot. If not, then they get their bid deposit back and the town gets property back. I mean, that would be, then I would suggest a higher starting bid. Otherwise, it's just as is, start at $1,000.
Just for a little background on the grandfathered lot issue, the only
Yes.
reason why that would not be a building lot is if someone owned land that was contiguous to it since the zoning bylaws were enacted that require 3 acres for a lot. That means if someone split that off from their lot, say in 1995, and it doesn't meet zoning then, and it doesn't meet zoning now, so it would not be grandfathered. But if it was created in 1975, before zoning was enacted, then it was a building lot then, and it's still a building lot. I just have not had reason or call to do the research on that, which can be done through the Registry of Deeds, but it could be a building lot. And I think Carolyn's idea of putting a higher limit on it would be reasonable. And then if they can get a refund if it's not a building lot, because it's really worthless if it's not a building lot.
So without any structure on it right now, it can still be
I
grand.
don't think so. Yeah, right.
It doesn't have a structure on it now.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So there's no structure on it right now, right? It's an empty lot. And
Is that-
you're,
Carolyn, is that
I
correct?
think so. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it does not have a building on it. If it had anything, it was a shed.
I guess it surprises me that it would be grandfathered if nobody's ever built on it, but I don't really know the laws.
Well, that's why we have the expert Phil here with all the complexities of the zoning and building lot requirements. It seems like it could be grandfathered if somebody's willing to do the research.
So it seems like that's the best plan to go, is to sort of sell it as, and if it's not building
Right,
an available building lot, then we could take it back.
right. That sound okay, Carolyn?
That works for me. And in sitting here and thinking, I would like to revisit the 120 Depot Road and just sort of thinking through how people are going to react to the different bid prices. I think Phil definitely does have a point about the, like the properties that are building lot compliant size-wise and everything, which the 120 Wendell Depot Road is. So that really is somebody buying a building lot. I think that and the New Salem Road, maybe they should have the same starting bid price of $5,000.
Okay, sounds good to me.
And then with the same caveat that if nobody bites, then I can go down to 2, but,
I
Okay,
think somebody will bite on that.
That sounds good.
People are desperate for land in Wendell right now.
I know. That's what my hope is. I mean, I want to have a nice little bidding war going on Saturday.
Sounds good.
That would be delightful. So, we'll see. But anyway, okay. And then what else did I want to know? Oh, these were important things. Like, how can I get into the town hall on Saturday to get some tables? And I'm not really going to worry too much about chairs. We'll probably put out a few chairs, but people can stand because this is going to go pretty quickly. Carolyn, you can get a key from me.
what time does the
Okay.
election start?
Well, the auction's at 12, but we're going to be down there at 10, and people are expected to start coming at 11 because it takes a while to get the bidders signed up and their deposits turned over. So I would need it by 10 o'clock. And I think that's probably it.
Okay, well, I can come with a key at 10 o'clock.
Okay. Well, I'll just meet you there then.
Okay,
And
Carolyn,
I'm also around to help with table moving if that's what you're doing. You're taking them outside or what?
Well, the auction's on the common, just like town meeting was. So, actually, I was just going to have the tables set up right outside the building and do the sign up business there, and then then I'll just have people go over to the common and hang around until it's time to do the actual auction, and then we'll stand over there and do it. And then it takes a while afterwards to get the paperwork filled out for the people who have won the bid.
So this is Phil. I will also plan on meeting you at town office at 10 o'clock on Saturday.
Okay. That sounds great.
And Carolyn, in answer to your other question, we do not have a temp, but I think the weather's supposed to be good on Saturday.
Okay, that sounds good. I didn't really think it would work anyway because it sort of it defeats the purpose of keeping everybody 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Carolyn,
All right,
thank you very much for all your work on this. It's obviously a labor of love in some way, but it's definitely a lot of work. So thank you for that.
Well, we'll just keep our fingers crossed that it's successful.
We will. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Anything else for me, or I'll just go?
Think we're good?
All right. Bye.
Bye. Okay, well, that took up some time. We're a little behind schedule, but the next item that we have here is the FinCom school representatives regarding the proposed interior door project. So maybe I see Doug here. Doug, would you like to lead that discussion?
Sure. I think it's it's pretty simple at this point. It doesn't look like the school committee and the New Salem Select Board has already decided not to support using the borrowed money, at least not in its entirety, to replace doors. Phil and I have talked about this, and there definitely seem to be some doors that should be replaced. So I think it's really, from my perspective, and like this, Phil and I talked about this, that we might need to use multiple funding sources, but we really need a plan for how many should be done, in what order, over how long a period of time, paid for in what way. And some of the borrowed money could be something that could be considered. Although, I think you probably know I have concerns about the fact that the town meeting didn't vote to use that particular borrowing for this particular reason. But it's actually too bad Carolyn left. But my sense is that if we decided to do it, really this school year or whatever, there's other borrowing we could do to do that, or we could try to figure out if we had enough of a consensus of all the people who we can gather up to talk to about it, that we could use it and feel that we'd be able to explain it out. All right, but that's it.
Doug, do you want me to see if Carolyn's still here? Because I'm at the town offices.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, be nice to hear how difficult she would think it would be to do separate borrowing for that, if we wanted to do it that way.
And Doug, maybe I can just give you a little bit of the history. This is Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have had trouble with the doors since probably for the last 5 or 6 years of the doors splitting apart, and the Larry and Walter and now Eric trying to fix them, and we have been very unsuccessful. So we have looked at ways for us to go about replacing the doors, and that is not in our wheelhouse, given the structure of the doors. So when we had a construction company here, we just asked them if they could take a look at it and give us an idea. And they gave us a proposal, and that's all it is. And that's all that Jen and I were going to come to you with. We had no, we want to work in a partnership and see that we do it when everybody feels comfortable. But since we had the company there, we asked for an idea of how much it is. I think Bruce misspoke for some of us, And we wouldn't do this without the town's approval in any
Sure.
way. So,
Mhm.
so that's why we came today, to really make sure that that is driven home. So I do have a quote for $105,500 for 33 doors to be replaced. And I can certainly send everybody a copy of this. That's with all the hardware, all the glass, everything to be done to the doors, and upgrading the locks on the doors to what they're asking for the current police departments are asking us to use, with a flip lock and fire rated glass. So 33 18 gauge seamless steel stiffened hollow metal doors. And then what we found out in our project is that those beautiful beams that we have in our building are putting so much pressure on our windows and door frames that we have to replace 4 frames in the school because they are so twisted and pressured that we've had to cut the doors down as we've tried to fix them. And so we have to order shorter doors for 4 and actually replace the entire metal frame. So that's why,
So only 4 need new frames. All the rest of them, it's just the doors.
yes. So, so if we just replace the 4 doors, I have that number here too. If we just replace the 4 doors and those frames, we're looking at $25,000. And to me, those are the ones that need it the most. It doesn't mean that the other doors don't need it. They do. But if we were looking to do something like should we fix now? What can we extend over time? These 4 doors really are important to be done because they've lost their fire rating the way we've cut them down to fix the problem. But this was something we would have talked about in our October meeting when we start talking about the budgets and moving forward. We know there's money left because, well, Bruce tells me there's money left in our project. I don't have an exact number, but in no way am I ready to move forward on anything without joint go-ahead from both towns. Like, that's just not how I operate. It's not how Jen operates. None of us. I mean, Jen can
No.
speak for herself.
Yeah.
But we don't operate that way. So, so that's where we're at. I'm happy to send the proposals to everybody to look at. It's a lot of money.
Lori, can you let Carolyn in?
Oh, sorry, yes.
I have a question about, I can't remember the issue on prevailing wage. The big job is a prevailing wage job, I assume. If we do small segments of replacing doors, I don't know that we need to use prevailing wage. There's a money
Yes,
limit
we
or
do.
something, isn't there?
No,
On anything?
prevailing wage from $1.
Okay, that's what I wondered. So if we had a local contractor do this, they would get the prevailing wage?
We've tried.
Unless-
We can't get a local contractor to try and to do it. We've tried many people in town, many of our local carpenters in town are not interested. Kurtz is out of Westfield.
They're not what? They're not adequately insured or licensed or something, or what?
I just don't think they do it.
They wouldn't do it.
This is Phil, if I may jump in here. Kelly and I spoke about this last week, and I have to support and agree with what she's saying is that, local contractors don't have the expertise, and doors in particular get used every day, hundreds of times sometimes. They're very specific to a high level of expertise, and quality of installation is very important. So if you don't do that as part of your career, if you don't have that experience, you don't just go into a public building and install metal frame doors. It just isn't something that a carpenter does. So I would agree that, and I also want to support the idea that the doors need attention, that they are definitely compromised, that there's definitely real work there that needs to be done. And, you know, as again, doors are something that people use every day, hundreds of times sometimes, and they should work perfectly well. They should be easy to operate. There are doors there that we saw that don't lock well. There are doors there that were actually, and Kelly, I had a different understanding. I thought the doors were cut because the doors were higher than the wooden beams. So whatever the reason why the doors don't fit, the doors couldn't open with those wooden beams, 4 of those doors. And the doors were actually cut to function. So whatever the reason. So there is a real issue there. The doors need attention, and they are compromised. So we should definitely look at a project there.
But it doesn't have to be tomorrow, right? It's something that we can plan for.
I'm agreeing with that.
From my perspective, it has to be something that the town meeting votes to pay for. Specifically. That's sort of my problem with it.
Excuse me, Doug.
Yeah.
I think Carolyn's back. Did you have something you wanted her to address?
Yeah, Carolyn, I was wondering if we were to take this door project that people have been talking about, that's about $105,000 hypothetically, and divided that up. They would divide it in half or 3 or something and did it in 3 sections. If we wanted to borrow for it, how complicated would that be?
Well, it would be the same process as any other borrowing. You need the town meeting vote. And once you have the town meeting vote, it takes about 3 weeks to get it, go through the borrowing process. But you can't do anything without that approval,
Right.
without authorization.
And then another question I have about that for you is, if we needed to borrow for it, so we're gonna be talking $50,000, and if we divided that up over a few years, maybe we wouldn't even have to. But if we did, and we say we did it from a vote from the next special or the annual next year, would the rate that we borrowed at be the same as the batch that we're borrowing for the bigger construction for the exterior that we're working on right now?
Usually smaller, well, I have no idea. The interest rates, could change drastically from now till a year from now. Right now,
Of course.
the interest rate's very low, so that's encouraging, but usually smaller sums, which $50,000 is a smaller sum. The interest rate is typically a little bit higher, but still, in today's climate, a little bit higher is, maybe 2.5% as opposed to 1.1. I mean, we just borrowed the $200,000 for the windows and doors at 0.89.
Wow. So is this, if there's an excess in the borrowing that we did for this, that's due to the whole project coming in under the bid, would we be borrowing at that really super low rate for another $50,000 of it for our part? If we did it
Well,
now?
it would be, I'm somewhere in a range between, I would guess, between 1 and say 2.5%. Until you go out I have no idea. I leave that up to our financial advisors, but.
I think when we talked about that, is the borrowing for the exterior doors in process now, or is it just sort of waiting right now?
Wait, you mean this windows? Are you talking about the current project?
Yes, the current project, right.
The $200,000 has been borrowed, and that rate was 0.89%. Now that's a short-term borrowing until next July, and I'm hoping by then the project's all done, and then we'll have to, however it settles out, do the long-term borrowing for that project.
Oh. I see. That's a
That's
little more
not
complicated.
0.89 for the next 10 years. That's for the next 9 months.
Oh,
Wow. This would be hard to do without seeing this actually kind of laid out. So it's kind of complicated.
Yeah.
Where this, if there was extra money in this borrowing, where it exactly is, how it would fall, when we'd know we had it, and how much we'd pay for it. It's all sort of
Well, the
spread
thing
out.
is, if you're I mean, I have not processed it yet because unfortunately snail mail got it to me too late to get onto tonight's warrant. But I have the request from Swift River for Wendell's share of the borrowing, and he is asking for the full $200,000. So there's, at this point, no extra money out of that.
Okay.
Bruce is asking for that?
Well, I haven't looked, that's what the cover sheet said,
Okay.
so.
Hmm.
I haven't gone through all of the documentation yet.
Okay. All right.
That's kind of complicated.
Right. So at this point, this is just information about the doors. It will take, if we choose to move forward on this, 6 to 8 weeks to get doors. So if we're thinking to do something next summer or whenever, we just need to think about that lead time to order doors.
It seems like we have a consensus that this is a good project and we need to go ahead with it. But also that we need a town meeting vote, one way or the other. I think you have the support of the Wendell Select Board, but we would need.
I'm not sure the timing though, Dan. I think that it could be that we'd want to divide it up.
Sure.
I think we'd have to do a little more assessment about the urgency of the level of the doors and compare that to where we are with the cap, the damn cap,
Right.
and see what we could fit in what kind of a time frame.
Right. But regardless of the time frame, it does require a town meeting vote. I think.
Yeah. And the project should be done, but yes, so it's a question of best way.
And I have to
manage
say
it.
that working with Kurt's construction has been very positive. They've listened to us. They've been able to take suggestions that we've had or questions and really work with us throughout this whole project. So I'd be very confident in having them do it.
Well, certainly the simplest thing to do would be to borrow it all at once, put it in a debt exclusion and let the rate go up, the tax rate. But whether that's what the town would want to do, I'm not sure.
Right. I completely understand. So I will send these over to Nancy and she can disperse them. I'll send it to the finance committee too, but she can disperse it to the select board.
That sounds good.
Okay. Great.
Good.
Thank you.
So, and we can continue the conversation in our finance meetings about the budget and everything.
And the timing.
Yeah.
And we will make a note to put this on the agenda for the annual town meeting, which would be in May, which would maybe give you enough time, but there might very well be a special before then.
Okay.
Could be.
All right.
Is the school, just a question, is the school being used physically to the capacity to where it would be impossible to do this while it was open, or would it be possible because of reduced capacity?
They
did say they could pull in a night crew and do it at night.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or they would do it over vacation breaks. If they got the doors in, they could certainly do it then. So we could piece it throughout the year.
That's interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, thanks all.
But, please come by and see how the school looks inside and out. I mean, thank you so much for letting us do the work that we've done. It's amazing The classrooms are just so much brighter and more open. So thank you so much for that.
Cool.
And we have doors that work, exterior doors that really work and keep the water out. So it's awesome. So thank you.
Nice.
Great.
All right.
Good. Thanks,
Great.
Amy.
All right. Any other questions?
No, thanks.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming.
Good. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we know where we're going on that. I think, I don't believe there's anyone from the meeting house here at the moment. And I can make just a brief update on that, which is that we did send the purchase and sale off to a revised purchase and sale. We did get comments from the meeting house about the purchase and sale agreement. We revised it, we sent it back to them, and we're waiting to hear back. So that's really the next step. They are going ahead with some of the construction. Some people may have seen the email from Jerry Barilla saying they are going ahead with the construction of the ramp, the handicapped accessibility ramp on the building. And they're doing this, I guess, in good faith, thinking that there will be a transfer of the property sometime soon. But we do want to get moving on the purchase and sale. And I have needled them, and we should be hearing from them soon with any further changes to the purchase and sale agreement. Any other further thoughts, comments, questions on that?
Was somebody planning to come to the meeting?
That I don't know. They were informed, and like I said, I did inform them that the front burner item is their comments on the current document. So I imagine they're working on that.
Can we send a request? I mean, I don't know if they were invited to this meeting, but could we invite them to the next meeting to try to further things along?
Sure, good idea. So Nancy, I think that's all of our invited guests, but do we have any other, I'm sure we have some other items on the agenda that you know about that I don't.
Okay, so the next thing that we had on here was animal control, which we talked about last week. And I spoke with Maggie, and she said after the meeting with the Leverett police officers on Saturday, she spoke with the female officer, I believe her name was Megan Gallo.
Yep.
Right.
And she expressed interest in working with Maggie on animal control. So Maggie's going to pursue that with her. She said she would be willing to, pick up the dogs and get them to the kennel if Megan would, perhaps interact with the people when there were complaints, or if there was anything that had to go to court, she could do that. So Maggie's going to work on that, and hopefully we'll talk to her and see where that goes. But that might be something when we're talking about this MOU that we might want to at least talk about to see what they're willing to do and what the cost might be for that.
Right. Yeah, good. And I did speak with Megan about it also, and she's very enthusiastic about helping. So I think, like you say, the actual financial arrangements or whatever can be worked out, but I think it is a good opportunity. She seemed very interested and happy to help.
That was going to become a big problem, right? I mean, that was a big hole we had there.
Could be.
But that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be great.
So before we get to old business, I do have a couple of smaller things. Our multi-board clerk, Nicolette, has resigned. I think she's given 2 weeks notice. So unfortunately, we're back to the drawing board, finding another multi-board clerk.
Oh dear.
So we'll get that word out, but if people want to start spreading the news, that would be helpful.
Okay.
And then Laura, you would ask me about the farm tax exemption as regards to forestry, whether we could have a brief discussion on that.
Yeah. So I was going to be at the assessors meeting tonight, but then they had to cancel. So I'll just give a quick background, and Doug knows a lot about this too. And I mentioned this at the last meeting. So in it, voting in this farm exemption at the last town meeting, one thing the assessors have been sort of grappling with is whether forestry or logging falls under the farm or agricultural exemption. And Jake Duty has been talking with me, and others should sort of, I think he might be the only person in town who would be affected by whether or not this is, whether or not it is determined that forestry is part of this exemption. So, I've talked to the assessors, and it seems like they've been talking to DOR and other towns, and the law or the definition itself of farming and agriculture is incredibly difficult to tease out in terms of whether it's definitely mentions forestry. But clearly from talking to both the assessors and Jake, there's two ways you can take it. So I think, and I don't know if you all saw Doug's letter from the FinCom. I can't remember if you sent it out to everybody, but at least Doug and several other FinCom members have taken the position that it's just one, it's Jake, it's one small business in Wendell. We haven't been taxing him for how many years? Since there's ambiguity in the definition or the law, it seems like it's something we could possibly, I don't know, give a recommendation to the assessors on how they might come down on that question. But I don't know, maybe we can't, maybe that's totally up to them, and we can just, I don't know. It's not something we've done before, so I'm not sure what the precedent is on how that works. So I guess two questions. Can the select board should we even weigh into this kind of thing? And if so, what is our thinking on it? Which way we would want to weigh in?
I think we're allowed to weigh in. I do think it's ultimately an assessor's decision, probably. I certainly personally would weigh in towards including forestry, because I think forestry is an agricultural practice, especially in Wendell. But that's just my thought.
For what it's, yes, I think with the assessors, that's all we can do is express opinions. They have a legal duty to carry out, and they have to do it in a way that works similar to the Board of Health. So there's areas where the Board of Health has some subjectivity, and there's areas where they're stuck. The FinCom, as it is, since we've had the resignation of a member, there's 3 of us left. The 3 of us are pretty much unanimously of the opinion generally that putting personal property tax on any small business, like under 100,000 or whatever in personal property, is counterproductive to the economic development of the town. Mm-hmm. And so that's why in my note I said, please consider that anytime you have the opportunity to have a legal exemption, we would ask that you take advantage of that. You can't force them to do it. You can vote them out, I guess, but one of the problems with these things is that they'll do what they do, and I hope they can do it. And if they can't, then they can't. But that I even took the trouble to try to find out, how do cities give tax breaks? How do cities and towns, what the town meetings legal capacity is to determine tax breaks that they want to give for certain businesses and things like that. And most of them didn't seem to apply to personal property tax. So there may be sort of a rock and a hard place there, but it's certainly our perspective that the small amount of taxes you get, let's take the example of Jake, okay? Just if Jake paid the personal property tax on what he estimated the value of his machinery might be, it would cost them $1,000 a year for personal property tax. That's 1 penny on the tax rate. My house valued at $300,000-ish, that cost me $3 to lose that, to not collect that $1,000. On the other hand, so it's $3 to me or $1,000 to Jake. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that most all of his firewood he sells locally. So I buy firewood from Jake. A lot of other people do too. If he has to make up that $1,000 by charging more for firewood, it's probably going to cost me $45 a year to help pay the $1,000 off instead of the $3 I would pay in property tax. So it's stupid. And not only does it do that, but a lot of the small businesses, not all of them, but most of them probably are on the edge financially. When you start hitting them with another $1,000, they're already paying property tax on their house, and it can make a difference in whether they make money or when they make a decent wage or not. It doesn't seem to be the correct posture for the town, if there's any way to avoid it. And I just don't know what the ways are to avoid it, except in this case, as you said, Laurie, it seems like there are ways for them to interpret it differently, and we'll see what they do.
Okay, well, I'm happy to go to the next assessors meeting, and if I can speak for the select board, I will tell them what we all decided.
You're okay with that, Gillian?
Yes, and I was actually, I know this doesn't really factor into it, but I know the history, long-term history of Wendell is in forestry and wood. And, I feel like it is an agricultural business. So I just support your opinions about it.
Good, great. And thanks for doing that, Laurie, carrying the message to them.
Thanks.
Okay.
Very good. Did you have anything else, Nancy?
So I don't know, did we have any update from Gillian on the IT grant, the community compact grant? Is anything moving forward on that?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. So, and I'm just trying to, so I guess the question is, and I'm glad, Doug, you're here for the conversation too, is that it seems like a great opportunity and to try to go for. I had some concerns that we try to give a good assessment of what the needs were in the town offices, town buildings, to upgrade IT. Robbie Hellard weighed in saying that he felt like can't remember if he said software or if Linux is software, but that piece of it is okay, but that the machines probably need to be upgraded. Part of what made me think about it is I was trying to help Barbara Craddock get set up so that she could do Zoom, because John Sullivan used to do that for the Board of Health. And I was working with her on the computer in the office that they have here. There's speakers, but there's no audio in terms of speaking into. There's no camera. There's no, to try to make something work. And it just got me thinking about, how do we make it easier, especially when we're all having to do this video chat meeting business, and probably will for some time longer. Do we have the money to pay a consultant to help identify what the needs are? The estimate was from one consultant who has worked with Wendell in the past, said about $2,500 at a minimum. We could start there, saying just give us down and dirty minimum. But I didn't know if we had the money to be able to say, okay, we could take it from here to pay for that.
I don't mean to, I'm actually not going to beg to differ with Robbie's assessment about software. I'm going to say that there's other issues around software. I would like to have the town engineer consulted with this, Jim Slavis, in part because he already does a lot of work electronically. And there's a lot of electronic connections that he's engaged with, but also because he knows a lot about it. and there are financial softwares that we're not using that we could be using that would integrate the tax assessors, the assessors, and the assessors, the collector, the treasurer, and the FinCom more effectively. And it could be that this would be something that would help us do that. Because I know that every time we talk about not being able to communicate with FERCog, which is another issue entirely and has a whole bunch of other facets to it regarding the service and stuff, but just that piece of it alone has been usually pointed, it's usually software that is the thing that is pointed to is why we can't do that. And I know from talking to other FinComs, they get the budget information downloaded directly to their computers, right? In a format that they can read and use in Excel. And we can't get that anymore from FERCog because they're using a different kind of software. And so there's either an issue of us having the software to be able to use that with them, or for us to have some kind of an integrative software between the two, you know? So, and that's just one example, you know, I mean, what we'd really like to be able to do is to be able to see the highway department, the library, and the administration all connected together in a way so that the financial information, that's particularly what we're interested in, but there's other stuff too, all be able to be centrally coordinated and shared so that our work would be so much easier and it's just so much faster if we could do that. So so there are other software issues, and Linux is, from my experience so far, and it's minimal, but it's not particularly helpful in those issues.
Doug, I think you're right, is that Jim Slavis would be a perfect person to start working on this. And it may be that we need to make sure there's some money available to pay the extra time that he might be putting in on it. But I think he's the first person to talk to.
Do you think he could identify both hardware and software that would be needed to upgrade?
I think so.
So the turnaround time is the grant is due October 15th.
Oof.
I believe it's the 15th. So I know I mean, having somebody in town would be helpful in terms of.
If you could do it, he'd probably be able to do it faster. That's the question. So, I don't know. Al, did you reach him? No, Al's there somewhere. I see his picture. I was going to try to reach him. I don't know, but I don't know where Al is right now. So.
Okay.
But yeah, Gillian, I think you can just put in a figure for tech support for that, maybe $25,000 or $5,000 into the grant application.
Okay. And so I think they were planning on some of that too, because I mean, there's going to be sort of network setup support. I think the question is prior to the grant going in, if we had somebody do this work.
Yeah.
So if it is Jim, then do we pay him beforehand, or do we ask him, hold on, we'll pay you if we get the grant?
I think that he could do a very quick assessment for money that we can afford to pay him.
Okay.
Probably.
So do we just ask him to submit a bill, or do we give a dollar amount?
I think you could ask him to submit a bill, to do a quick study of what's needed and submit a bill for his work.
Okay.
What do you think, Doug?
I think so. Yeah, if he's got the time to do it. I mean, it was this question. You know, that was what I was going to ask Al. Did you get any?
I didn't get a hold of Jim yet. No, I didn't get a response from Jim.
All right. So
I did also want to add the fact that when you're talking about intercommunication, that I think that town meeting's an obvious example of the fact that we're starting to use streaming for meetings and trying to get it out to the public with a new network. And one of the things we might want to look into is the video capability for streaming beyond using somebody's laptop in order to get those meetings out and events. And I was thinking there might be somebody through Montague TV network that we could get a hold of that would just give us an idea of what it would take in terms of dollars for a basic setup for a couple of cameras and on-the-spot editing equipment, production equipment.
Al, did you see that? Were you on the email? Lou Leland sent out a shared email document that we can add ideas to.
Google, yeah, the Google document.
Yeah, if you would add that to that document,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
right at the
Right.
top in terms of the comments, that would be great.
Sure, no problem.
I have to admit, I haven't looked at that, so I better go throw some things in there.
Okay. I mean,
That was, it
20,000
was from Lou? It's
Yeah.
it's an email from Lou, right? Okay.
If you haven't got it, Doug, I'll shoot a copy at you.
Well, would you send me one anyway, just in case? If you know,
Okay.
if you got your finger on it, just send. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
So Al and/or Doug will get in touch with Jim and see if it's feasible for him to do this.
Sure.
Okay.
You want to do it or should I? You want me to do it, Al?
Yeah, you've got a one-on-one with Jim more than I do. So
Okay.
right.
Email's the only way I know how to get him anymore. I mean, I don't know what's he using for telephones. I don't know. I suppose I could
Yeah.
talk to Phyllis and translate, but yeah, it's
If-
okay.
367-2175.
Yeah.
Yeah, 367, right? Yeah, because he's in 4 and 3.
Yeah.
So if Jim is not available, if he says, nope, too tight of a turnaround, what's plan B?
Well, plan B would be to just make up some numbers.
Yeah.
A few new laptops.
So we do
You know,
have in
I
our
think-
budget $7,500 for IT systems maintenance.
Yeah, we do that. That's right.
Does it get
Yep.
used every year?
Not lately.
No, I don't think it does.
So if we did
Right.
have another option and we wanted to use a consultant, can we pull it from there?
We could.
Okay.
And I think that it's Penny I was talking to about this integrating stuff, who was telling me that there was a software problem that she wasn't able to get information in the format she wanted or send it on, and other formats that she wanted to send it on in. And does that sound right, Nancy? Is it Penny or is it you?
Not me.
No, okay,
I
yeah,
don't know
it
anything
might be
about that.
Penny. Might be Penny who was sort of on top of how that was. Yeah.
And if not Penny, her assistant collector, Kathy Solwergene, is certainly on top of that stuff.
Yeah, Doug, even if you want to check on that and put that in Lou's document, that would be great.
Okay.
Just trying to get a sense of costs and what kinds of things
Yeah.
need to be updated.
Yep. Maybe Nancy could, one thing, I wonder if you wouldn't mind sending a note to Brian to just ask him if there's anything off the top of his head that we could do software wise that would help us communicate with him better.
I'll be happy to send the email. I can't guarantee he'll respond.
I understand.
Thank you for trying.
Thank you.
And if it turns out that Jim Slavis has too tight a timeline to help us before the grant deadline, do we want Gillian to go ahead and hire her person for $2,500 to do that?
I would say yes.
Yeah, and it's not even my person. It's somebody who has worked. I'm just seeing if I can pull it up really quick. With Joel Mollison of Northeast IT. And would be able to sort of, has worked with the IT grant in the past, so he's familiar with the grant. And the evaluation of the network, he'd evaluate the network and systems network equipment, switches, wireless access points, firewalls, security, physical equipment, operating systems, network setup and configuration, data security, and data backup.
Okay, good.
So we'd have to explore, maybe he'd know what kind of software would be able to be included in that. May or may not be able to get financial and integrated software, but who knows?
And he said that the grant, they don't require formal proposals submitted with the grant. They do require a description and estimated costs and an understanding of future ongoing costs.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So I'll follow up with Lou.
Okay. I'll look at that thing and put a bunch of stuff in there.
Thank you.
So we're good on that, Doug. You'll talk to Jim, and if Jim has a problem, you'll let Gillian know.
Yeah. If Jim can do it all, or if and even if he can, it would seem to be good to include him in the process.
Yeah, very much.
With this, if we were to do this consultant, I mean, Jim is certainly part of it.
Yeah.
A piece that would be important to have.
Yeah. Well, he's got a lot of knowledge of our current systems.
Right. Yes.
Or lack
and what would be nice to have that would work better. True.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Anything further?
So moving on to old business, I think the only thing under there we need to discuss this week is board vacancies. So it sounds as though Shay Cooper is willing to step into the Board of Health vacancy.
Right.
At least. So I will prepare an appointment slip for her to be signed. And then there was a possibility of Anna Weatherby perhaps taking over for town clerk. Have we heard any more on that?
Anna's working with Gretchen, and she volunteered to work up through the election, which is the sort of tough time that Gretchen is concerned about. And Anna has volunteered to help her with all of that, and has expressed some interest in maybe going further. But she's got to work with her own schedule and think about her own plans and see what the work is like with the town clerk. But it is potentially a positive development.
I've been very impressed with Anna's work around the succession committee, and it's very thorough and prompt and tech savvy.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That would be great. Yeah.
I did speak with Brandon Reed. He expressed some interest in learning more, but also knowing that he has his sights set on a full-time job. So,
Right.
It might not be something that would work for him long term. But I did give him Gretchen's number. I don't know if he's been in touch.
Yep. We're kind of hoping he'd express some interest in being the town accountant, but he hasn't followed up too much with that yet either. So let's see.
And my last thing is for the next meeting, since the town has voted to appoint an MLP board, I'm going to put that on the next MLP agenda, at least to start kicking around ideas for that.
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, we now have an appointed board, and I think, the original understanding of the select board was that the select board would remain the MLP until construction is complete. And then we would move to a board other than the select board as an MLP board. So I think I will know when construction is complete, because I think we're the last ones on the list.
Last one.
But I have a feeling that that's not going to be too long in the future, maybe a month.
Oh, yeah? Oh, good.
Possibly. But at any rate, we're not talking about months and months and months, presumably. We're talking about something that's coming up rather soon. So I will be in touch with the broadband committee and let them know that we're thinking of making appointments and we would like some recommendations. But the broadband committee, I believe, has already put this out there, and I think at least three or four people on the broadband committee have expressed interest in being on the MLP board. And at least two of those people are extremely talented and well-versed in what's going on. So I think asking them for recommendations would be a start. And then,
And we received a letter today as well.
right. But,
I would, since it is very possible we'll have more people interested than positions open, I would like to clarify sort of what process we're going to use to make decisions. I don't know how often you've had to do that. Have more people.
Never.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty unusual. But
So,
I think, Lori, the first step is to get a recommendation from the broadband committee. And then it's a select board decision. And the process for that, it's called a knockdown and drag out fight. No,
But it's a high quality problem. That's good.
not really. It's a discussion, and the process is simply a discussion, I think.
well, I mean, do we want to sort of set us a bar or something where everybody has to give us a resume, or everybody has to, I don't know, something, I feel like it would be good to have equal playing field in terms of everybody has to either do 1, 2, or 3 things, and maybe, just have a process.
Yeah, that makes sense. And why don't we all think about that for next time? And it'll be on our agenda for next time, and we can discuss it then. What the requirements might be and what we might ask people to submit. A resume is a good idea. That'd be a starting point.
Okay.
I was also, is there some place that people know of, or I can just Google, like what are like there's a list of requirements.
We probably have an old description. Is that what you mean, sort of a job description kind of thing? I think we've put that together a long time ago, back when we first thought we might be creating a new board. So I bet we could dig it up.
That would
And
be helpful
we'll have
for me.
that ready for the next broadband committee meeting.
Okay, good.
I had one other board appointment question, or not about the MLP, but other board with openings, and this is particularly the assessors. Every time we've had an opening, it seems like the board comes to us and says, oh yes, this person is interested and we're happy with them, so can you appoint them? I'm just curious if there's a process, if somebody came to the select board separately from the assessors or whatever board, how we might handle that in terms of sort of vetting somebody who had, I assume, I would say the first step is does the board, that you're trying to join, agree that you're a good fit. But I just want to make sure that that's shared if that ever were to happen.
So I think the legal requirements for appointing somebody to an elected position is the remaining board members and the select board jointly decide on the appointment.
Right. Yep. That's the process. Very good. Thank you, Nancy.
I have nothing else.
Okay, Gillian, do you have any further items? Or Lori?
No,
I just thought of one little tiny thing, and I'll just throw it out there if it's okay. So the rec committee looped me in on plans for Halloween, and they were in contact with the Board of Health, but they said they were looping me in, 1, because of my role at the school and what I do with families, but also 2, because as a select board member. So I just wanted to mention that. I told them that I felt like the responsibility was with them and the Board of Health.
Yeah.
They're probably going to plan on doing something on the common and handing out little bags of candy that people have donated, and they've prepared ahead of time, being safe, that kind of thing, but providing an experience for children. So, but sounded like fun. Sounded like they were giving some good thought to it. But I just wanted to put that out there.
Good. Well, thanks for the heads up. It's good to know it's happening. And I think you're right that it's in good hands. If the Board of Health is working with the rec committee, that sounds great.
Yep. There will be a Halloween.
Not in New Salem.
All righty. How we doing, everybody? Ready to take the rest of the night off?
Yeah, let me just quickly ask Nancy, were you able to get a card for John Sullivan or Lori?
For Laura, yes, there's a card here to sign. When you sign the minutes, it'll be on the table.
Great, thank you so much.
Oh, and actually, I had one question, which is, Nancy, did we receive a letter from Ed Chase?
Yes, we did. His resignation is effective. Let me just read you the letter. It was a nice letter. Hold on. Not long. After thoughtful consideration, I am writing to inform you that I will be retiring as Chief of Police effective October 15th. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the citizens of Wendell, the neighboring agencies who have assisted when called upon, and officers who have worked for me for over my 42 years as chief. I have been proud of the integrity and success of this police department. It has been a privilege to serve the town of Wendell. Sincerely, Ed Chase.
Wow, great. Excellent. Good letter.
Did we do some recognition for him? And I was thinking of Annie, who has been on forever.
We did a little recognition for Ed at the meeting the other day, but anything further and for Annie would be great if people have thoughts about how to do that. I think,
Even if it's just a card from
yeah,
us, I think just in recognition of thanks and appreciation.
I think it also would be good to put Ed's letter on the listserv and maybe even on the website so that it gets a little more exposure. It's a carefully thought out letter that he wrote there.
Mm-hmm.
We might want to ask him first. Get his permission.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll do that. I'll check with him on that.
Okay.
And do we know about Doug, if he's officially going to remain or not?
I have a call into Doug, and the last I spoke with him, he is interested in remaining, and hopefully he'll do that. If anybody sees him, they can encourage him, and I'll keep encouraging him and working on that and let you know.
Okay.
I did actually speak with Julie Shively, Leverett Select Board, and we had talked previously with Scott Minkler about this, that if October 15th arrives and we do not have a written agreement with Leverett, that Leverett will be happy to cover Wendell starting October 15th under the mutual aid agreement that we already have with Leverett.
Nice.
So legally we're all set there, and we're all set in terms of coverage, I think.
That just reminded me of, I had received a call asking if Wendell had a noise ordinance.
No.
We do not.
Okay. I suggested they call the state police if they continued to have issues. I wasn't sure what else to say.
That's probably a good response.
Okay.
Okie doke. Anything further, folks?
No.
Then do we have a motion to adjourn at 8:51?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Night.